Hi, welcome to the program. My name is Arif Halaby, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Today with Mark Murphy on your place for news, talk, and information, your hometown station, AM 1220. All right, we're talking about your family's finances. You can always catch us this time every week. We're talking about how to get out of debt, manage your money, plan for retirement. What does that look like? You know, sometimes we'll get into some ways and tips to save money. I love talking about the grocery store. You know, everybody has to shop, and many people today shop a minimum of once a week. Sometimes people go in many times throughout the week. And the tips and tricks, you know, how they place items. Often stores understand that we shop and we go in, we go to the right, and then you've got this loop that people do, and how we focus on that middle 4 feet or so of the shelving, you know, and the end caps have a particular place and profit centers, and the least profitable places will go in different, you know, up and down. Yeah.
You know, my wife's figured this out. When she goes shopping, she doesn't take me.
Yeah.
It cuts the bill in half.
Well, I can tell you that Nabisco, I think, is still the owner of Oreos. They don't do well if I don't go to the store.
Yeah,
I'm responsible for their entire Q3 profits. It's become a joke in our family. If I go to the grocery store, it doesn't matter if it's milk or if it's a whole week's worth of groceries. I always come back with Oreos. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the blue. Maybe it's just the thick
double
extra
stuff, green.
You know, something happens. I think it's that subliminal messages. You know, if you remember way back when, I think it was in the 80s, they tried this subliminal messaging where the music is playing and they very low volume or in some other fashion, maybe a different frequency, but they would play, you know, buy milk or buy what, and they would see that in many of these store locations, the item that they were pushing, if you will, or encouraging you to buy would actually go up in sales. And you see this and go, really? They do subliminal stuff? Yes. And so it got pretty common there for a while and very, of course, controversial. I don't know if laws or rules or were passed, or in some cases it's now been at least frowned upon. Is it still being used in some places? Maybe. I don't know. But I do know somebody that used to sell that background music that you would hear in stores when you're shopping. And it was a consistent thing that would take place where you would hear this music and it would be soothing, or they would want you to encourage yourself to buy things at different hours of the day. So in the morning it would be one type of music, and in the afternoon another, and then as it gets later another. It would encourage different behaviors.
Well, mine's just sugar.
Yeah.
All day long. Sugar consumption.
It's an amazing thing what that little, you know, granule thing can do. Sugar, salt, I think also you see that push in our lives.
Just targeted the right way.
Gravitate towards it. In addition to all of that, you've heard us talk about, of course, the grocery store thing. Maybe a couple more things to just touch on is we have our one or two, sometimes three, and when you add the big box store in there, it might be three, stores that we'll shop at, right? You may have that one store that is the place you go for everything. And then you say, you know, this one over here has some great produce. It's very inexpensive. It's a larger store. I love the discounts. I love the specials. And you'll go there. And then you may have that really interesting store that has items, but if you don't buy it now, who knows if they'll ever carry it again. You know, it's there. Sometimes it comes and goes. It's a little bit weird stuff, you know, things you never thought you would mix together in an item, and yet it's pretty tasty. And but sometimes the meat or the vegetables might be more expensive. So you'll have 2 or 3 of those that you might visit regularly. But when the pattern of behavior that you have established crosses over your economic means, right? So what do I mean by that? It costs money in gasoline. Certainly it costs time, and it costs dollars for you to go to these various places. But we need to eat. You're going there twice a week. You might do the big box store once every 2 weeks, but you're buying, you know, large bulk, and you consistently have a habit, a pattern of behavior. You couldn't tell me the 4th time back when you went shopping at that store, whatever the store is, where did you park? But you can tell me that you probably parked in this general section, because just like where you sit at church, where you sit on the bus, where you sit on the train, wherever you sit, whatever you do, you have a pattern of behavior. You're probably going to park your car in the same place, generally speaking. That is important to understand, because then when you take those habits to the way we spend the money and you cross that over into retirement, you have to learn that you're on a fixed budget. Now, when people say, oh, senior citizens are on a fixed income, do you realize that everybody's on a fixed income? You know, unless you can go and manufacture something in your garage and you go, oh, I'm going to sell 8 widgets today instead of 6, you're all on a fixed income. So you have to spend like a senior citizen does. It doesn't change.
But there is one thing, though. Have you ever noticed, particularly if you're at some of the box stores, or in the case of my parents, they used to go to the military equivalent of the box store for the discounts.
Big PX.
They go to the same big box stores when there's one of them, maybe 2. Now, granted, there may be some tasting going on.
Yeah.
But I think in many cases, they're buying bulk for a crew that doesn't exist.
We have seen that. You've gone from 4 or 5 mouths to feed in your family down to 3 and then 2. It often is the case where if you might go to your grandparents' house and you take a look in their garage, maybe they were alive during the recession, the Great Depression, maybe they were alive during World War II, but you start to see, you know, boxes of toilet paper back in the corner, or cereal or canned goods, and you look at this and you go, gosh, who would ever do that? Must have been losing it for years. No, you don't understand what they went through before. You don't realize it. Oh my goodness. That was a huge commodity. You know, women used to not be able to wear nylon stockings because they needed it. Tires for your cars were made out of, in some cases, wood. So people would fashion because we had to use all of those items, those raw materials, for the war effort. So in turn, what started happening is our habits were created differently at a very impactful time. Fast forward where we have more nylons and rubber tires and toilet tissue and canned goods. We have everything we need. And yet, some people are still hoarding those in their garage and in their cabinet and pantry.
Well, I tend to find, used to see the multiple pantries.
Yes.
And the deep fridge or the freezer in the garage. And it's okay if you're feeding an extended family or a multiple family. And if the senior generation has the money to take care of the younger generation, hey, awesome.
Yeah.
But be careful, because there's an awful lot of accumulation.
And we start to see some waste in some occasions.
Yep.
I want you to have food, emergency food preparedness. And you got to decide what that looks like for your family, whether that means 1 extra propane tank or 4, whether that means, you know, a refrigerator in the garage or a freezer. I love it that our energy people want us to not have that freezer in the garage because it can save you up to $110 a year. I got an idea. How about not paying 1 guy overtime to watch 2 dig a hole, and my utility will save more than that, and I get to keep my freezer.
Okay, wait a second. We're crossing the
I know.
the line.
I'm ticked off because I saw that again recently. All this construction on the freeway, and you have 8 people watching 1 guy dig a hole. Gee
Do
whiz.
remember, my folks, we used to have these parties. The freezer would go out when the electricity went out.
Oh,
And in the
there
Midwest,
you
we
go.
all had half a steer. And when you got half a cow that's suddenly thawing, you're going to have a big barbecue.
Well, let me tell you, when it was just my wife and I don't even know if we may have had 1 child at the time. And a friend of mine says, hey, we're graining a cow. I go, what does that mean? They said, well, you know, we bought a cow, we got a steer, we're going to grain it for, I don't know, 60 days or something, 90 days. Do you want to buy half a cow? I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. I'll take a half a cow. Sure, half a cow. It's my wife and I give a steak or 2 to my parents. Be kind of cool, be the good son. When we got half a cow, it was about 4 of those big ice chests. It just kept coming and coming, and I had packages of so much stuff. It was, beef. There's no way. I had bought a new freezer and it filled it up. And so I'm like, goodness, that's a half a cow. It was great. You know, of course, the meat was good. It lasted forever, all of that story. But the point is, you're going to buy things in different fashions as you go, and that will create a habit. And as you're creating those habits, there are going to be good things that come from that. And there's also going to be bad things. Some of those, as Mark was saying, as your family starts to age out, and you are now in a position to say, okay, how do I feed this many people when I'm now cooking for 1 or 2 instead of 6 or 7, you've got to cut back your spending because you've got to throw out a lot of the vegetables, right? I mean, unless you're canning or something. Those habits now, you're in retirement, your kids have grown, you need a steady stream of income because your income has slowed down. How are you going to change your habits from having an income that was of a certain dollar figure? The days of those big pensions with the cities, they're over, folks. San Jose, San Diego, And numerous cities in between are going to be changing it this year and next year and the next year. It's no longer fashionable to retire at 50 years old. I mean, for you it is, and for me it's great. I love to do that. Retire at 50 years old, and you collect 72% of your pay for the next 75 years. I mean, it's just not going to happen anymore. There's just no money. We used to have a big bucket of people called baby boomers putting in. And just like a traditional Ponzi scheme, if you will, those big bucket of dollars of people putting in, on the backside, there's 3 pulling out for every 25 putting in. But as that begins to shift, and we have more people taking out of the pension system, Social Security, the market, the stock market, you're going to see pressure on that to perform at incredible rates of return, which means higher risk or eating into the principal, or just the money just disappears. It's just not there anymore. So how do you secure that? You've got a habit of wanting to eat dinner every night, imagine that. A way of spending money, a place where you park in your car, where you buy your groceries, and all of those habits, and you forget that you need to have something just as consistent, just as steady, that is a habit of spending your money as a habit of earning it. And I think we may have found a solution for you. We'll be back in just a minute. I'm Arif Halaby on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hi, I'm Dan Sturkle, General Manager in Nissan Valencia, home to the $99 down delivers. I'm standing next to 2 of my most favorite vehicles, the completely redone 2013 Altima with its unbelievable 38 miles to the gallon, and the 2012 fully electric Leaf. It goes 100 miles for under $5. Here at Nissan of Valencia, not only do we have some of the lowest prices on our new Nissans, but we also have extremely low prices on our vast inventory of pre-owned vehicles. Come see us at the all-new Nissan of Valencia, home to the $99 down delivers.
When I grow up, I want to help animals. When I grow up, I want to help animals. When I grow up, I want to help animals.
Every parent knows the feeling. You look away and your child is gone. Imagine if he or she were actually abducted. Sign up at wirelessamberAlerts.org to get free Amber Alert text messages on your cell phone. If you did help an abducted child get home, just imagine what his parents would be feeling. Wireless Amber Alerts. A child is calling for help.
Hey, welcome back to Arif Halaby along with Mark Murphy on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour, talking about your family's finances, how to get out of debt, manage money, planning for retirement. Okay, so how are we going to make sure that the habits that we've dealt with over time and that we've built up when it comes to shopping, and I'm using the grocery store as an example because most people go to one store at least once a week, whether that's the corner liquor store or the pharmacy or whether it be whatever. You're buying something to eat or to consume. That isn't going to change when you decide you're going to change careers or stop working for money. That continues, especially if you still have a mouth to feed. You know, there seems to be a big push with the whole changing understanding of people's families, right? There's a lot of talk about how families are changing. They're not your, quote, traditional mom, dad, and 2.3 children anymore. It's now mixed and blended families and step families. And in addition to all of that, we are seeing more and more of a push of parents taking care of their grandchildren. So they expected to retire, and this is a lot of the baby boomer folks. You expected to retire at 50, 55, 60, 65 years old. Little did you know your son would be a drug addict. We've seen that. Your daughter, your daughter-in-law, your son-in-law, the baby's daddy, mommy, whatever, would be incapable for either a part-time or for a very long time in taking care of your children. And you may have a steady stream of income somewhere. Maybe it isn't a lot, but you're never going to let your grandchildren down, so you take them on. We have seen this. You know these people. You know who they are. Come on. Mark, you don't have grandchildren yet, I don't believe.
Hopefully not for a while.
Yeah, but your oldest, I mean, I get you could.
Yeah. We
Your
could.
oldest is old enough to easily be married for many years and have a child.
Well, it's the same age as we were when we were married.
Yeah, it's scary, huh, when you look at
it's
that.
very scary.
When my younger sister was going to get married, and I was like, you're too young, wait. She's like, I'm the same age as your wife was when she got, I'm like, oh, well, that's different. And of course,
Yeah, it was a different time.
yeah, different time, different blah, blah, blah. Right, yeah, they don't hear that part.
We just tell them they have to have a big portfolio.
Yeah, that's right.
That solves that problem.
But you are seeing more and more, maybe some of your friends whose lives, their families changing. They're getting remarried maybe later on, either because of a death or a divorce. Do you know anybody in your generation that is taking care of grandkids? You see it anywhere?
A very large number.
Oh.
And they can either be doing it to take care of the kids because it's now theirs.
Yeah.
I've seen some wonderful people step up for that.
Folks, in my opinion, you are an angel when you do that.
Well, I have neighbors who not only stepped up, theirs were off college, gone, and they stepped up and adopted a new child who adds tremendous vigor to their life. Here they are in their late 50s raising a new child, and what a great experience. We see that's where it's wonderful opportunities where people are stepping up and taking on another family.
That is an amazing thing when it isn't your child. Now, I understand it's your grandchild, but there are a lot of people that have turned that down. Well, it's not my problem. I worked my whole life. It's now my time to enjoy my life. I gave to my kids. It's tough luck. I've seen that too. I can't understand it. It's not how I was raised. You know, my dad would hunt me down, and my mom would chase me around with a stick to change my mind on that world. But you know, you never know until you're there, so you can't judge the people. I can judge the behavior and say that's not good behavior, or I would do this instead of that. But you kind of have to have been there. And what kind of differences are you seeing, Mark, in the lives of these friends or family that are, I don't know, their lives are different?
Well, I see a couple of things. I see more people stepping up than not. That's an amazing thing. Whether they're taking on responsibility to raise the kid themselves, or they're playing a role in raising the kid, and they're bringing in the rest of the immediate family. So mom and dad can pursue their business careers, or one can. They're starting up daycare centers where they may be taking care of 2 or 3 kids in addition to their own. So there's a lot of blended assistance that seems to be occurring. And the other part I hear is we're going to create a section of the house,
Yeah.
even an add-on that is for mom or dad or somebody, and then they're raising the rest of them. And I think that's really healthy in terms of how they're doing it. But I'm seeing a lot more of that than not.
And we've seen, Mark, in some occasions where people are taking care of a parent and a child and even a grandchild, you know,
Yep.
a daughter that gets pregnant and isn't married, and they want her to finish her school, whether it be high school or college, or maybe she's moving back from an abusive relationship and now has to move back home. And so a lot of this baby boomer generation who envisioned, you know, sailboats and drinking wine on the veranda of, you know, the French Riviera suddenly changes.
Well, I have friends who've talked about that, where they're really giving up some of that extra life they were thinking of doing. And they may be bringing in some of the kids that have now become adults that are part of blended families or not, who don't have a place to go. And I have friends who actually have some people coming in to live with them that are not relatives.
Wow.
They're making the decision to either set aside part of their house, part of their property, to bring and help other people, other families.
You know,
You see that a lot, particularly among the men and women of faith.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Growing up, that is what we did as a family. We being, you know, I was a kid, but my parents brought in family from overseas. The Civil War in Lebanon was raging in the mid 70s. And my dad brought about 40 members of his family from Lebanon, and some of them stayed at our home, and they got them established with jobs, and my mom enrolled them in school. And I remember going to the airport, and we'd hold up signs because we never met these people. They didn't speak any English. Imagine you for just a minute. Suddenly you no longer know what you know in America. We have lost our country. There's a war raging, and you have to leave, and you get to take maybe 2 suitcases, and that is it. And you have to go pick a country, middle of China, where they've never seen anybody like you, and you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, the customs, the slang words, nothing. And you drop you in the middle of a place in China, right? It would be very strange for you. You know a little bit because they saw television, But they don't, just like you know a little bit about middle of China. What would you do? So what did these folks do? Within 6 months, they spoke English fluently. So if they came here in the 4th grade, my mom would enroll them in the 3rd grade. If they were a mechanic in Lebanon, my dad would get them a job in a mechanic shop. They'd have to keep it. Everybody's responsibility is to keep their own job. If you had students that were in elementary school, my mom would take them to the LA Unified School System that we had. We lived in the Valley. Those are amazing human beings. To see what my mom and dad would do. And the other day we were thinking about this. We went backwards and looked at their age, and I thought, oh my goodness, here's my mom in her mid to late 20s, taking on dozens of people. Some would stay for a night or 2 or 3 at our home, and some would stay for weeks or months. A little 1,100 square foot house, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and there was already 4 kids and a mom and dad that lived in that house. You know this. Some of you have done this, and you're the unsung heroes. Well, that's a pressure on you. We know it. I remember hearing my parents argue every once in a while and have to settle things, and financially it was tough, and yet they did it. They did it with their head held high. I don't remember any government assistance except, we get the school lunch program. I remember that, where you get the little ticket. I thought everybody did that. I didn't know. But as far as welfare or food stamps, I don't remember ever getting that. I think my parents were too proud, and my dad always knew there was a job to be had somewhere. He could do it. Didn't matter. There was a business to create.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. Your dad was typical of those willing to do anything. I know my dad had friends from Vietnam who came in. They had gone from being equivalent of executives.
Yes.
Some of them involved at peace talks. I mean, they were well educated, working as supervisors in production lines and factories. Whatever job they could get, the children had to work whatever they could get.
Yep.
They made sure they got their education. And they also had usually one or more who served in the military. And I thought, you talk about people who earn their citizenship quickly.
Yeah.
One generation.
Yeah. Incredible when you see that one generation, 10 years in some cases, they would own a business or have a home or be established. They wouldn't complain or whine, at least not to anybody I know. And yet at the end of that process would hold their head up high. Of course you had a wayward child now and again, and it would get in trouble. We had one of them. One of my cousins was a troublemaker. Now he's fine, but you get that. But there is a steady stream of income pressure on you, whether you're going to help rescue, there's toil in a lot of places in the world right now, but whether you're going to help rescue those folks, whether it is right down here at home, it could be a child or a grandchild or even a great-grandchild in some cases. I know somebody in her early 40s who just became a great-grandmother. When you do the math on that, everybody started quite young. And yet, with that, is there a way for you to have a steady stream of income where you're not counting on a city or a county or a government agency? You're not counting on a big company to come to town and rescue you, because all of those things have proven to be shaky and at best in some cases. Well, we have that answer. When we do that, you'll know when we come back. On your hometown station, I'm Arif Halaby, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on AM 1220 KHTS.
Hi, I am Cesar Milan with Junior. In Santa Clarita, we love our dogs, and in our role as pack leaders, it is important that we do everything to keep our pets safe and healthy. This is why it is so important to license your dog through Los Angeles County Animal Control. Licensing your dog will make it possible for them to be returned to you in case they get lost or stolen. You will also get important reminders when your dogs are due for vaccination. Show your dog you care and license them today.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Where have you been?
I lost my cat.
Oh, that's not right.
Yeah, so I made this cat magnet to try and get him back. Cool. Does it work? Kinda.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's not my cat. Gotta keep working on it. See ya.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
AK Printing is Santa Clarita's choice for quality printing at an affordable price. AK Printing and Design's professional graphic artists create, print, and deliver your catalogs, brochures, flyers, invitations, posters, banners, and much more. Everything you need to make your business or event a success. AK Printing is your one-stop design and print shop. Call today for a free quote. AK Printing and Design. It's It's not about our vision, it's about yours.
Hi, I'm John Dean with Dean Safe Company. For the last 4 decades, the first 10 people I talk to every morning have just been robbed or burglarized. I'm here to help. We have the largest selection of safes on the West Coast. We carry gun safes, pistol safes, burglary safes, fire safes, safes of all types designed for home and office. We will help you protect your valuables from fire and theft. We offer professional, discreet delivery. See it all on our website or give us a call, deansafe.com.
It's a gas. Okay, we're back. Arif Halaby here along with Mark Murphy and, of course, Jeff Gerardo. You can see familiar face. We'll also hear a familiar voice here in a second. How are you, Jeff?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me again.
Well, it was important to have him because we're talking about a subject that is complicated. I believe in it, but I really don't understand it.
Well, you're talking about basically when people have to go back to work, or they have planned properly, because in the process of going back to work, they ended up with a whole series of dollars saved properly in the right vehicles that have in turn created a level of strategic income. And where are we seeing it now? More and more companies, governmental agencies, people are turning to, they are annuities. In some cases, they are not right for you, but in many cases, if not most cases, they are the perfect fit. You make sure you select the proper insurance company. We work with A-rated insurance companies and make sure that you're dealing with one who's got some stability there. And at the same time, they handle the risk. You get a reasonable return on average, 4% interest, could be as high as 7 or 8. It's on a consistent basis, right? Some years you might receive a 0, some years you might receive 9 or 10. But the consistency is you will never lose. You understand your principal when it goes in, and anytime interest is credited, there are annuities out there that where you never pay a monthly fee. When interest is credited, you get to keep all of it. If the market goes down, you don't lose your principal or any of the interest. But if you pull out more than your 10% a year, you might pay a fee. But the point is, you are putting your money into a place that can give you that guaranteed stream of income later on. And Jeff, we talked about, a lot of people in their second half of their life didn't expect to take their grandchildren on, maybe their parents, maybe their great-grandchildren in some cases, and now they are the primary caregiver. Oops, we didn't plan for that. We planned on being in the sunset, on the beach.
Sure. And I think part of it is knowing that the goal is to someday retire, but that plan's drawn in sand, like we've said in the past. You could have a medical emergency. It could be something as simple as divorce. I mean, how many marriages end in divorce? More than half.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. So these are life experiences that happen, and I've seen firsthand with some extended family that have taken not only taken care of themselves, so husband and wife, their parents that were still alive, in their 90s, their kids, their kids' kids, and their kids' kids' kids. So now take that and look at the amount of pressure that is on that one income, or that, like you talked about, that fixed income, whether it's Social Security, if it's royalties from business, or gosh, if they're just pulling their money out of their savings, which we've seen more and more people are doing. So there's something that you have to take a look at, which is some of that unspoken planning that everyone must do, especially if they have large families. The likelihood of one of your kids, if you have one or two, not succeeding, I guess maybe it's 50%. Who knows what the odds are there. But have multiple kids and then let them have multiple kids. I bet you the chances are pretty good that you're going to have at least a grandkid who's a rebel, or, hey, they don't understand me, I want to go live with grandma and grandpa. Right. And it's that, just for a month, or, hey, just through the summer, and I bet you that turns into a lot longer, which we've seen.
Mark, you were speaking about those people in our lives that take on other people's children. In other words, there's not even a relationship. Right. And I think all of us would agree, if our children or grandchildren, if they needed something, minors, I'm not talking about your 24-year-old who sleeps on the couch and needs you to get him a beer out of the fridge because he doesn't want to get up and get up off the couch. We're not talking about that kid. But we are talking about his child who did nothing wrong. Just was born to a lazy bum, if you will, or born to a girl who just didn't make the best choices. The best one was to not abort the child, in my opinion. That's a great choice. but maybe to get pregnant to begin with, and the decisions surrounding that, maybe some challenges there.
I've seen some very loving people.
And
help them.
So we get that. But what about when there are people in our lives who have had children, and maybe their children's friends suddenly need a place to stay? Would you kick them out on the street? Would you say, hey, here's some 800 numbers to the domestic violence shelters or to other places? No, probably not. Because your character is more about being a decent, reasonable angel, rescuer, you call it whatever it is. Let me tell you briefly on my in-laws. Amazing human beings. Amazing human beings. They ended up taking care of a child that was for a day, and then the mom says, I'm not going to come back to, I work far away, so can you keep him for a couple of days? And then it turned into a week, and then not the weekend. And so she would see them once or twice a month. And then ultimately, sometimes weeks, if not months, would go by. Now fast forward 24 years later. Wow. And these kids are not kids anymore, they're adults. One of them passed away from an illness. And yet through that whole process, my wife's parents were there for these kids. We call them my in-laws, my sister-in-law, basically. And they never got paid a penny. After the first couple of weeks of, quote, babysitting dollars, that was it. But meanwhile, who pays to get this young lady a new car? Who pays for her education? So do you see what I mean? There are sometimes your retirement plans that are not going to happen the way you thought. And you're going to need a steady stream of income. Annuities can give you that backup. It can give you a guaranteed steady stream of income. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to make millions of dollars in interest. It's not going to be that next to Facebook or Apple stock that goes through the roof. But if you have dollars that you want to keep, whether you've done great and the kids are on their own, and now you're going to use that money to be able to travel, and you've got the steady stream of dollars hitting your bank account on the 6th of every month, that's up to you. But if you have a situation where you need to get dollars into your account to take care of somebody else, it's a way to do it. We know a lot of folks that do it.
Well, I think it's important that you outline, Arif, if you would, some of the succinct differences between the different types of annuities and really what you mean by saying that someone's not going to get rich, but they're not going to go broke either holding this type of an account, because you have that safety factor in there that's built in. When we talk about safer money choices, we talk about annuities, but specifically the ones that can help you earn interest when the market goes up. I mean, there are some accounts that are kind of in between the traditional and the variable kind, that where you can lose everything. So knowing the differences between them and not just saying, oh, well, my CPA doesn't like annuities, so I'm not going to buy one. Well, I think that's the wrong attitude, and really looking at what it is that can work for you in the annuity world. That's an important difference, because look, they can all be turned into streams of income for you, but some could work better than others for you when it comes to either interest or how they're paid out, what some of the options are for earning interest along the way. Those are the differences that you need to know between the different types of annuities, and then choosing the one that's right for you.
Yeah, there are three main annuities out there. We're going to come back in just a second. I'm going to give you the basics of each one of them, when to use them, what they're about, so that at least you can know a bit more of information. You know, the old adage that knowledge is power, I'm going to tell you something. Are you ready? I think that's a lie. I think today people say that. No, it's not true. You go, what do you mean, Arif? Because it isn't, if knowledge is power and you have access to Google, you're done, right? You're the king of the world. If knowledge is power, then that means you know everything about everything, because you can find out what it used to take me an entire Saturday to do research when I was in high school and my mom would drop me off at the library at Cal State Northridge. And I would have books on building of a pyramid or humpback whales. Those two, I remember those two research projects I did, and all of the things that went with that, right? Piles of books. Today, on your hip, in your purse, on that little smartphone device, in minutes you can find out the same thing that used to take me hours, if not days. So don't tell me knowledge is power, because there's buckets full of knowledge. How do you get the one that matters to you? So I believe that the proper use of the proper knowledge at the proper time is power. Yes, there's wisdom. Yeah, wisdom is power. But the power to make your own financial decisions, the power to get out of a mess when you got yourself into it, the power to prevent things from being really bad instead of just bad, the power to create success for you and your family. yes, knowledge is important, but it is not the way it used to be anymore. It just isn't. See, remember before they used to teach you not to read, right? Back 150 years ago, oh, we don't read. You go to the field and work when you're 7 years old, but the nobles and the king and his children and the queen and her kids, they had tutors, they had homeschooling. My goodness, ooh, bad word. Homeschooling. They had their own voucher program, and they took care of their own kids. They taught them how to run the family business. They taught them how to run an empire. Even today, there are things you have to know if you are coming from nobility or from money. You have to. You have to know how to manage people. You have to know how to manage the people that manage the people. You have to know how when things are a good idea, a good investment, the research. It's different. And then about 100 years ago, when the education system was created the way it is today, it was created by very wealthy Americans. To do what? To create the ability to make sure that their employees knew certain things. And none of them had becoming wealthy, running your own company, being successful financially so that you would quit after 18 years instead of staying there for 37 years. Right? I mean, conspiracy or not, let's just do the math here. So how do you ensure that your kids, or yourself for that matter, know what you're supposed to know to be whatever it is that you want to be? You know how to do the research that matters to you. So digging through the pile of knowledge and selecting that one piece that matters, that is power. And then you learn how to apply it, and you ask the people that are 3 or 4 steps ahead of you and say, hey, what did you do back there? And they'll tell you. And you continue that process. Annuities might be the answer for you. I don't know. When we come back, we're going to give you those 3 choices, because I think this is important for you to know, because somebody has to tell you. And we're here to share that when we come back. I'm Arif Halaby on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour on AM 1220 KHTS.
Scratch Golf Accelerated, Santa Clarita's unique indoor golf training and fun center. We have great programs for kids and adults of all levels. Rain or shine, we're here to improve your golf game and have fun doing it.
It's great to practice with just the girls at Scratch.
We enjoy playing in the adult league at night. It's a great time.
And they make it so much fun for the kids too.
We love Scratch!
Come see us at Scratch.
Did you know SCV TV reaches over 250,000 people in the Santa Clarita Valley? SCV TV's sports and event coverage has audiences in the tens of thousands. SCVTV.com has nearly 200,000 page views a month, and no other Santa Clarita media outlet has more friends on Facebook than SCV TV. Can you imagine what it would mean to your business if your message reached all those people? If you need to generate more local business, or if you would like to uniquely position your company within the community, then consider SCV TV in your marketing campaign. SCV TV, the only local television for Santa Clarita.
Let's get started!
Check out Senses on Main Street each 3rd Thursday of the month from 7 to 11 p.m. in Old Town Newhall.
AM 1220, KHTS, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour, talking about your family's finances. Okay, how do we guarantee that source of income, basically that steady stream that we've all wanted to have? It'd be nice to have that pension. Do we count on the cities or the states? Not going to happen, folks. We saw what happened back in the 90s, the Orange County bankruptcy. Remember that? Is it James Citron, or Citron was his last name, made some bad bets as the treasurer and did some things that cost Orange County to have to go into bankruptcy. What happened? Well, if you had a deferred compensation plan or a certain type of a pension, it was impacted. In some cases, you didn't receive all the dollars. Oh, but it's deferred comp. No, it's not your money yet. Now, some laws have been changed to make it more difficult for cities or states or counties to get after your deferred comp. Basically, it's called a 457 plan. But what about your pension? And can they still take your deferred comp? Yes, they can. There are ways for those dollars to still retain in the city coffers, for them to borrow against it or to pay you back over time. Just keep in mind, you guys, that if your pension is designed to be a guarantee from a source in which it counts on new dollars being put in by new employees or by the earnings inside of that to create enough money to pay you and everybody else, then there could be some pressure to reduce those payouts or to never increase them the way that you thought they were going to be increased. So all that to say is something called a fixed indexed annuity has been there to solve this problem for the last many, many decades. Okay. But what about the fixed annuity? What is a fixed annuity? Okay, so there's three types. The fixed annuity is similar to a CD.
That's right. And so basically what you have is a preset or predetermined amount of interest that you're going to earn. So kind of like a CD where the bank advertises whether it's 0.5% or 1%, you know that that's all the interest that you're going to earn in that account for that entire period, whether it's 3 months or a year. Well, annuities generally work on a 12-month cycle. So you'll know that for that entire 12 months, you'll have, let's say it's 3 or 4%, that's guaranteed, and you won't make any less than that. So that's kind of a good thing. So looking at it from both perspectives there.
Well, I guess I'm looking at this perspective, Jeff, of a guaranteed principal. I mean, I think a lot of us panic when we have suddenly a new requirement. We suddenly go, oh my gosh, we have 5 years or 10 years or 2 years to retirement. We've got to get a great return from the market. So let me go invest in the hot new thing, and then I don't understand why my principal's gone.
Well, that's that pressure that people put on themselves, whether they've not saved enough or they've taken too much risk in the past, and now they feel like they've fallen short of what their target was. A lot of people, when they're smart with their money, they check in at certain times of their life, whether it's 15 or 10 or even 5 years before retirement. They say, okay, I'm on a certain path. I'm on a glide slope here to stop working for money, and that's going to be replaced by my savings or my investments, whatever have you, my annuities. So this is all part of that planning. So I think the people that make the mistakes are the ones that say, gosh, I have such a limited amount of time. Look, I sat with someone in the last couple of months who said, I need the next hottest thing. Yep. I said, well, look, we're about safer money, and we think that you should protect some of your principal. Gosh, you're on your third career now, second or third career, and he's still working for money, although he claimed to be wealthy. And he said he wanted high risk, and he wanted to maximize his return.
So do you sell short on Facebook?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, goodness, here's a guy who he seems like he'll never leave the card table. He'll never leave the slot machine. He'll keep putting money in, and he'll keep pulling the lever. And I hope to goodness he'll one day either figure it out or he'll have some type of trigger. But see, that's the mistake a lot of people have made. And Arif, you told a great story in the past of someone that invested and never pulled out what it was that they initially invested, and they never paid back the person that they borrowed from, and they made astronomical amounts of money, but they never realized it. They never cashed in because they were always waiting for tomorrow, and it never came.
And that guarantee, that safer element of, in this case, a fixed annuity, gives you that predictable, regardless of the market, regardless of interest rates. If you have a 5-year fixed annuity, every year it pays a certain amount of interest, let's say 3%, and you're receiving that every single year, whether the market is up or down or interest rates or inflation. It's just like a CD, if you will, in the sense that it pays a guaranteed source of income or source of interest. But you're not paying taxes on that interest. That's what the annuity cover can do for you.
Yes.
Is it avoids you having to pay taxes on that interest as if you were in a CD, for example. You would. Until you pull out the money. So when you pull it out, then you pay taxes on the interest. So you can just roll it over and over and over and continue that for many, many years if you needed to. On the other side of the spectrum is that variable annuity. And that variable annuity, that underlying investment is the stock market. So you actually put your money with the insurance company. The insurance company, based on your determination and your selection, selects whatever is available to you. I mean, there's generally a list of investments. And you can select. You might put some in the large company, some in the small company, some in a money market account, whatever the case is. And in doing so, you can get incredible rates of return, 20, 30, 40% return. Or you could lose everything, or certainly most of it, including the interest you earned last month, including the principal that you've worked the last 15 years for. All of that can be gone in a few days or a week of bad economic news. Now, what is the benefits of a variable annuity? Well, you can get guarantees in there, and when the market goes up, you can get some great rates of return. The drawbacks are you are paying fees, in some cases significant fees. When you add all their little add-ons and stuff, then sometimes you may not even know what you're signing. through that process, you could be paying 2, 3, even 3.5% fees. Now, if you are not earning that, then there's a problem. You've actually paid money to lose money. And in my opinion, that is not a good thing to do. You can't do that very long and keep your wealth. And then comes a fixed indexed annuity. A fixed indexed annuity is the same conversation with the insurance company as the CD type annuity or the fixed annuity. You put money in the account, it's growing in interest, you do not pay taxes on the money until you pull it out. And in addition, unless it's a Roth IRA, for example, you'll never pay taxes, right? Because a Roth IRA is the post-tax money, just like the $20 in your pocket or your purse. You've already paid taxes on those dollars. Goes into the account. You earn interest. You don't pay taxes on it until you pull it out. If it's a Roth, you don't pay taxes on it at all. That's the whole Roth world. All right. Now, the benefit of a fixed indexed annuity is when the market goes up, you can go up with it. If it goes down, you do not lose. The core principle, protection of your principal and any interest that you've earned in the past. That's important. Drawbacks, well, if you want to take out more than 10% of your account, you will pay a penalty or a fee or a charge, whatever you want to call it. There are no monthly fees. There's no quarterly fees. You can pull out 10% every single year. Hey, I want to pull out 10%. I want to spend it. I want to move. I want to travel. Whatever. You can do that, no problem. If the account has taxes due, you'll have to pay taxes on it, but that's between the government and you. So it gives you kind of the best, in my opinion, of both worlds. It gives you some returns that are above what the market in the interest rate CDs can get, but it protects the principal. And the worst you'll ever do in a year is zero. Have the same as you started with. Wow. I like that. Should you have some of your money in a safe place? I think you should. I think you ought to seriously consider it. You may have more or less based on your risk tolerance, but be very careful. You're the one working hard for your money, not your broker, not your friends, you. And that's a way for you to keep your family's money safe and really to keep your future in your hands as much as you can. Thanks for listening. We're here every week. My name is Arif Halaby with Jeff Gerard and Mark Murphy, and this is your place for news and information. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour on AM 1220 KHTS.